This is from NPR. Trump appointed federal judge blocks use of Alien Enemies Act for Venezuelans in South Texas. There are a couple rulings. One was that in California, CBP that wants to stop an illegal immigrant can't unless they have a judicial warrant for that individual. And if they try to deport the person, that person needs to be informed they can choose to not deport if they want. You then have this story, which is just coming out today, blocking Trump's use, a federal judge, of the Alien Enemies Act for Venezuelans. Now, what's crazy about this story is that the judge granted class action status to basically anyone from like any Venezuelan immigrant, which is nuts. We are dealing with, in this country, the American tradition, which is people who have family here for several generations, who believe in the United States. And then you have, and that's largely represented by Trump. On the Democrat side, they are represented by illegal immigrants, non-citizens, and they want as many non-Americans to come into this country. And they simultaneously argue, we love America. This is our country. Clearly, both are not the same thing. You cannot have two factions of people. One that says America is for the children of those who built this nation, and another that says America is for anyone who shows up in violation of the law. What happens then? Because right now, with these judges blocking the deportation, we have an untenable situation. Trump has floated suspending the writ of habeas corpus to deal with these deportations, citing Abraham Lincoln and other presidents who have done this without congressional approval, but maybe later getting it. I'm wondering what you see happening in this regard and if this is a factor in this coming conflict.
So Aristotle said that the marker of a tyranny, or at least one of them, is to rely upon foreigners over the citizens of said nation, because the foreigners had no stake in the nation's stability. And I think the left might very well be importing immigrants in to create some kind of army or military force, because they would have a trouble recruiting among a lot of young men. And illegals, they'll just say, we'll give you citizenship if you fight for us. It's a relatively clean deal, at least from their perspective. God.
I think that's shown in the recruiting statistics from the Biden administration to what happened when Hegseth became the SecDef. The Trump administration, they hadn't met recruiting goals for multiple years leading up to Donald Trump getting elected or reelected. And as soon as Donald Trump was reelected, the recruiting goals shot through the roof, or the recruiting numbers shot through the roof.
There was that bill a while ago. I think this is it right here. I'm trying to find it. I'll pull this one. Maybe this is the right story. Bill offers faster path to American citizenship for migrants who enlist in the military. And this is from the Courage to, I think this is it, the Courage to Serve Act. It was bipartisan. And they said if folks have the courage to raise their right hand, swear an oath to protect and defend this nation, and put their lives on the line, then they sure as hell deserve the opportunity to be an American citizen. And I think the story here was largely for illegal immigrants. It's been a while. They're saying migrants, but I do believe that when you get to the point where your military is trying to swear in non-citizens to serve,
that's a problem.
That's a country that's not going to survive much longer. I mean, look, with the economic problems we're already facing, with the demographic drop-off, Donald Trump mass deporting all of these people is not going to replace the missing children of millennials that don't exist and can't exist for 16, 17 years in terms of the workforce. I don't know what the solution then would be. Trump can deport all these people, but Democrats are clearly bringing them in because they're trying to prop up the economic system of the petrodollar. Trump deports all these people. The reason they're fighting it is because the world they live in is graph go up is good. Trump says, no, we want America for Americans. But Americans don't have babies. So how do we sustain this infrastructure?
You can't. I mean, I'm going to be blunt here. Mexico doesn't have a sustainable birth rate. Almost nowhere in the world there's a sustainable birth rate besides Africa. So it's our responsibility to start. We can't use the third world to prop up our numbers forever. So we have to start having kids ourselves.
We can't do it ever. It never works.
Those who have kids will continue to have kids. This is going to fix itself by the end of the century. We just need to hang in till there, because those who have children will be those who also have children after that. The culture will change because the culture is a natural reflexive organism that adapts to its environment. It's not a straight line. So the culture will have to change to fix this. We'll just have to hang in there till it happens, because government interventions tend to not work.
We may be looking at a dark ages.
Maybe, but we have to take the plot lines we're fed. And I think we'll pull through, because Americans are bad at losing. You look at our history.
but this is correct. I hear this from everybody. They assume that what we're talking about means like humans cease to exist. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's going to be like a dark age. There's going to be poverty, dilapidated buildings, city centers will collapse. Some cities themselves may become ghost towns. The funny thing is, if you go back in time even a couple hundred years, we have ghost towns all over the place. A town was set up for some reason, a couple hundred people live there, and they're gone. There are now small towns all over the East Coast. You can find them in Pennsylvania. They had big populations, and now they have only like 50 people left.
Yeah.
And you can see all the houses are just falling apart. Why? They used to be based on the railway. With the train tracks delivering with the rail delivering all these goods, the trains would stop at towns to resupply. They need food, they need fuel. So then towns would exist to provide the jobs to service this cargo that was transporting across the country. Now we're largely just driving trucks. It's freight, it's highways. So the towns that were built next to these railroads are decaying and disappearing. When you have a demographic drop-off, Donald Trump deporting all these people, we might actually see medium-sized, like maybe not medium, but let's say like a city that may have 10,000, 20,000 people could just completely collapse in 5-10 years.
Yeah.
A really good example of this is in Ohio, where all those Haitians moved in. Do you remember what the name of that town was? Springfield, Ohio. And people were pointing out that they're no longer seeing like white Americans, are seeing Haitians everywhere. But I don't think people consider the fact that the population was declining in this place. People did not have kids. They were not repopulating their own area. And so I think largely the reason Democrats brought in all these Haitian migrants was they were like, this is an area that needs workers. Send as many people. We don't care where they're from or what it does. Now, that doesn't work. The problem of needing to maintain a city infrastructure is not remedied by bringing in people who don't know how to maintain city infrastructure. It is a desperate, holy crap, what do we do? So I think we may actually end up in a place, maybe in 10 or 20 years, with they're calling it there's the mortality cliff. That is a standard thing that happens for all older generations. So baby boomers are in their I think early 60s to late 70s. Meaning boomers right now at the oldest are at life expectancy. 10 years from now, we're expecting a significant decline. They're expecting there to be, I think, around 20 million boomers in the next, how many boomers are there? I think it's going to be 20 million in 10 years. How many boomers are alive in the U.S.? And I think it's probably like, what is it, 60 million or something?
76.4 million.
Is that what you have?
Yep.
I have nothing. It's not loading. Oh, here we go. 68 million as of 2024. What was your source?
The Brave browser's AI.
So the prediction is
2012, they were 76.4 million.
Okay, so let me get a fresh prediction. How many boomers in 10 years? Because I don't want to make it seem overly dramatic, like 40, 50 million people die.
The other
10 years. Oh, go ahead.
The other thing is, so I'm from Pennsylvania, so I know a lot of the places you're talking about. I have several stories here, especially when I hiked the Appalachian Trail. I slept in a few ghost towns. And it's just really sad in Pennsylvania. But the death of the boomers is also the death of an entire worldview, where the boomers are holding together the post-World War II order. And so once the boomers retire, you'll see a complete cultural shift in a sub-variety of different things.
Rock estimates 2035, there will be 50 to 58 million boomers.
Okay, so I was way off. And by 2045, 37 million. So that's a really great point and an important one. The boomers are largely the principal voting bloc right now. So take a look at, these progressives that are being propped up that are younger. Look at the worldviews they're cultivating. It is a psychotic, deranged worldview with no cohesive policy plan, no cohesive structure of governance. It's simply Trump is bad. That is not going to vote for anything reasonable or meaningful. We will not function. This country is not going to function. I can't. Let me tell you guys this. I was looking at a house today. It's, I think, 5 point something acres. It's a bungalow. And they want around $500,000 for it. It's trashed. It's not worth it. The amount of work you'd have to put in to fix the floors, to fix the carpets and set it all up, not worth it. I asked the real estate agent, okay, so it's a big acreage, we get that, but the house needs $100,000 in work and you want $500,000 for it. And she said, well, right now in West Virginia, a new build bungalow on an acre is $600,000.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I said, that's impossible. That's impossible. Who's going to buy it? Like, the honest question. This is, it blew my mind that was the going rate for these houses. A bungalow is a 3-bedroom, 1-story house in a rural area on 1 acre for $600,000. Ain't no Gen Z going to buy that.
No.
Millennials ain't going to buy that. So what happens in 10, 20 years? Boomers are going to be much, much older and holding on all these properties. It's good. What is to come makes literally no sense in terms of a cohesive, functioning system. And I'll tell you this, flooding the country with illegal immigrants ain't going to change any of that. It's only going to make war. So I don't know what you do. But I'm curious again on those issues, what you think we could expect to see.
So the reason that the housing market's so expensive is that there's a vast amount of cheap money in the economy right now.
Or who?
The government. It's free. I meant to say free money. The government just prints a lot of money, and it just floods the economy because the money is not actually representative of the economy, so it causes the price of everything to skyrocket. And housing's a stable asset. So housing is it's a physical thing. So when you invest in housing, as the value of the money deteriorates itself, the house is still there. So housing is hedged against inflation, which is why it's skyrocketing. Same thing is why the stock market. It's insane that the stock market has been having a very good time in the last 5 years when the American people have been completely screwed over. And it's because the government prints cheap money. And
you can't hold cash.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll put it this way. It's not that the value of the house is going up. It's not that stocks are going up.
Yeah.
It's that the dollar is crumbling.
Correct.
So this is really fascinating. It looks like the value of stocks is going up, but I wonder if you compare it to buying power, if the buying power value of these things is increasing, because I'd argue it's not.
Buying power is garbage. It's collapsed precipitously in the last 10 years. I mean, I remember when everything, I'm 23, I'm young. I remember when everything was half the price it is now. And that's just, it's sad. And as of a little over a year and a half ago, in the previous 3 years, our currency had lost a quarter of its value. And that's the government numbers. And the government numbers are always lowballs because they always manipulate the stats. I mean, I would expect a number significantly higher, that the value of your currency for what it was 5 years ago is nothing.
I want to add one thing. I want to add something.
Right?
We showed you guys yesterday and today David Pakman's YouTube channel. It's all Trump. How many views do you think he's gotten this month?
I don't know. A couple million?
I'd say 100,000 each video.
So how many views this month? If he's putting out 5 or 6 videos per day.
Let's say I'm making up numbers. 4 million, 5 million.
106 million views.
Holy shit.
In the last month,
Damn.
doing nothing but diarrhea from his mouth about Donald Trump.
Damn.
Jesus.
Yep. I think Timcast IRL. Well, I can't track Timcast IRL as easily because we're split between multiple platforms, so that's actually hard to track. Our views had gone up, but I can't really track it. You know what I can track is just my Timcast news on Social Blade, which it's still split. 28 million on just YouTube alone, and then it's probably another maybe 10 on Rumble because it's split. It's harder to track. David Pang's not on Rumble. The reason why I bring this up. What do you think it means that our media space? Let me also do this, Brian Tyler Cohen, because I want to show these guys whose only subject is Trump. 196 million views.
Unreal.
Estimated monthly earnings, $785,000.
Damn.
And I'm going to tell you that's a low number.
Damn.
The only thing they say is Trump. Every single video. Our culture is deranged. I'm sorry. This is you can argue that clearly it's not 196 million Americans. It may be 20 million Americans who watch these videos religiously, but either way, a large sect of the population, their brain is being fried like a sunny side up egg in a frying pan, like that commercial back in the 80s. This is your brain on drugs. I can't imagine what the next 10 years is going to look like. If Trump leaves, I mean, Trump's going to leave. What happens to the brains of these people if there's no Trump? It's like their whole world ceases to exist.
Can it transfer over to Vance or whoever is the successor?
I don't think so.
They're trying that with Elon because the reason I think they're targeting Elon, because I didn't understand the Tesla move in any other lens besides this, is they focused their hatred on Trump for the last 9 years. You can only keep your audience engaged for so long. And so I think they're switching over to Elon because he's the wealthiest man in the world and he's a big attractor of envy because the left is motivated by envy. And so I think they're switching over to Elon as just a new target to feed their energy off.
Okay, I'm not saying it's comparable in numbers, but I just saw that Sheryl Crow sold her Tesla to protest Elon Musk. And then I'm assuming someone who supports Elon Musk, as she put it, showed up to her property to kill her. It was some life-threatening situation. Obviously, she's fine. But that's why I think that the derangement is spreading to both sides.
You guys ready for this?
Am I wrong?
I never said it wasn't. I've said for years that both the right and the left are going to get violent.
So if envy motivates the left, what motivates the right?
Disgust. This is one of my favorite ideas, the 7 emotions. So different societies are powered by different emotion.
Okay. You guys ready for the next hammer drop?
Yeah.
We'll start with this. Brian Tyler Cohen, who all he does is make videos about Donald Trump. David, 196 million views. David Pakman, 106 million views. Nothing but Trump videos. How many views do you think Joe Rogan got on YouTube?
200 million.
Biggest podcast in the world. How many views? Do you say 200? What do you say, Mary?
I feel like he has more listeners than viewers, so I don't know, 300 million?
What do you think? Phil?
I don't know. I'm going to go with 250 million.
52 million.
That's not many.
The biggest podcast in the world is not Joe Rogan. So we have to figure out what it means to podcast. Because I can make this argument. The biggest podcast in the world is Timcast IRL. Why? We have the largest live audience for a sit-down, multi-person conversation Monday through Friday. Steven Crowder's not a podcast. He does a news comedy show. It's a news comedy show. It's singular host with a crew, and they write comedy and sketches and jokes. So that would mean that, well, he's out of the running for the top podcast. Then you have Kai Cenat's number 2, but that's not a podcast. It's a live stream where he just talks to his audience. In terms of the traditional podcast of sitting down, we have the largest audience every single night. Let's all clap for ourselves. But that's not really true. That's not really true because we get on YouTube a couple hundred, 250. On Rumble, we're getting like 250. It's down from the high season, which is in the winter. And then on the audio side, we're maybe getting like 100, 200 now. So we're getting, I don't know, 600,000, 700,000 a day. But Joe Rogan gets 5-6 million per episode. So he's a bigger podcast, right? Well, he certainly gets more views than we do. Let's break down what a podcast is. It is talking. And some podcasts are 10 minutes, some are 30, some are 40, some are 2 hours, some are 3 hours, some are short. There are top podcasts on Apple that do news, and they're 15 minutes long. So if we're going to look at what a podcast is in its broadest sense, there's no way Joe Rogan's the biggest. Brian Tyler Cohen's bigger than Rogan.
On YouTube.
Four times bigger on YouTube, for sure.
But then on listening platforms, it would be much different.
I'd be willing to bet I can pull up Brian Tyler Cohen podcast ranking, and it's gonna be high. He looks like he's in the top 100. It's hard to see because they got rid of Chartable. So it's hard to figure out where he's at. I will say this, based on, I think Brian Tyler Cohen's probably getting 100 to 200,000 per episode. So I don't know how many episodes he does. Let's see. He does, he only does once a week. So very little there. Hard to say exactly what Rogan's doing on the podcast side. I'll just put it this way. On YouTube, Joe Rogan is tiny compared to the people who only scream Trump. Like, does that not freak you guys out?
So this is assuming the numbers are accurate, where we have some evidence to believe they might not be. Where, as an example, the Biden administration has added 1 million jobs on their jobs program, where they said there were 1 million more jobs for their entire year leading up to the election than there really were. And that was just a number they made up.
But this is different. This is tracking the YouTube API through an app to see how many views a channel is getting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Apologies. It's crazy to see where the culture is at. It speaks to a complete societal failing.
I mean, I'll tell you guys this right now. When they call people on the right grifters, they are full of, because if you make a channel and all you do is insult Trump, you're getting 4 times the traffic. Or look, Pacman's getting double the traffic of Rogan. Cohen's getting 4 times Rogan's traffic. That's insane. Insane. The biggest YouTube podcasts right now are simply Trump is bad no matter what he does.
Yeah.
Nothing else. No other subject.
Which is ridiculous that's still the case 10 years into Donald Trump being a political entity.
I was talking to the crew about this earlier, about why you get authoritarianism. The founding fathers were oppressed by the crown. They were upset that when they tried to assemble and deal with their own governance, the crown wouldn't let them. Naturally, they constructed a government that addressed such things. A right to peaceably assemble and bear arms, screw you, you can't stop us. But the pendulum can swing in another direction. Right now, you have unfettered speech of individuals, and what do? The most bare bones, raw, rage-inducing, psychotic garbage. And it infects people's minds and makes them go insane. I'm not saying ban them from doing it, but I wonder what the founding fathers would say if they looked at this media phenomenon right now and they said, you've got some of the biggest media production, millionaires, men of wealth and merit, these people are making donations, they're advocating for policy, and the only thing they do every day is scream about how much they hate one guy? I don't think the founding fathers thought that's what was going to happen with free speech.
It's funny you say that, because the founding fathers, when they made America, they were looking back to the pre-existing history of republics. And they were looking especially to the Greeks and the Romans who had republics earlier. And the interesting thing, and the number one thing the founding fathers were worried about, is they had studied Aristotle. And Aristotle has 3 different political systems. Oligarchy, democracy, and monarchy all have their core strengths and weaknesses that lead off based off their greatest strength to their doom. And for democracy, they said the failing was equality, and they said that you would start to see equality pop up as an idea, and that equality would ultimately kill democracy. And they said that mob psychology was the number one thing that would destroy democracy. So they knew about mob psychology because the Greeks and the Romans had enormous issues with mobs in their democracies.
There's another potentiality here, which is maybe a bit scarier. The views that are garnered by these Trump psychos are fake.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them are.
One of the stories that we have coming up, we covered this story a couple days ago. It's a segment that's going to be up at some point. Researchers were using AI chatbots to target individuals on Reddit, to build a profile on them, and then respond to them in a way that would change their minds, and it worked. So when you look at the views of these prominent individuals, it may be bots for one reason. When a young guy enters politics and he sees that if you go Joe Rogan's route, you get 50 million views. If you go anti-Trump, you get 100 to 200 million. Which way? And so these young guys are like, that's the mainstream. The argument made a long time ago is that The corporate press exists to convince 80% of the population that the 10% are the popular mainstream ideas.
Oh yeah, totally. You got it statistically right. Where wokies are about 10% of the population, and then 60% of the population in game theory terms can be manipulated by the public. And so, so that's you're right. That's exactly what they're doing.
So do you think these views are fake then? It's dead internet theory, they're bots?
So it's hard to disentangle between them because, as an example, almost every major issue the left cares about, they care about because it was a popular issue in mid 20th century Marxism, where, and I've spent a lot of time studying the anthropology of the left, so feel free to ask any questions on the topic. But in the mid 20th century, the Marxists thought the working classes aren't getting us power anymore because the working classes realize that capitalism gets them richer. So let's pivot to ethnic minorities, women, and gay people as demographics where if we pander to said demographics, we can hold power. And then what happened is that generations afterwards, the left was incapable of realizing that this was a strategy that that the left made up for the express purpose of getting power. They ate the propaganda.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.